There is a Greek proverb: a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. What are the greatest examples of this in human history? Joseph Bazalgette was a Victorian engineer who masterminded London's modern sewer system in the 1860s. He foresaw the insane population growth, and when all the calculations were made on how big to bore the pipes underground, he essentially said, "Nah, let's double it." Now, infrastructure that would have been unable to cope in the 1960s is still in use today. Kotoku Wamura, mayor of a village called Fudai in years 1947 to 1987. The largest project of his many years is undoubtedly the 51-meter floodgate that can be lowered to shield the village from an incoming tsunami wave. During its construction and in the years after, it was largely regarded as excessive and too expensive, costing approximately $30 million in 2011 money. If you are puzzled why it is most commonly seen calculated for year 2011 in particular, I hurry to remind you. In 2011, eastern coast of Japan was battered by a massive tsunami. Villages and towns all over were destroyed, with many of their inhabitants dead or missing. Fudai was the only village that stood almost completely untouched thanks to the once controversial floodgate. 27 years after its construction, and 14 years after the death of Kotoku Wamura. During the Napoleonic Wars, there was a Royal Navy admiral who, when on leave, used to wander his country estate planting oak trees to provide timber for the Navy. It's estimated they are about ready now. The Cassini family map, a first-of-its-kind map of France. It took 4 generations of family members and 6 decades to complete. Imagine being that second family member. Your whole life your father works on this map, only for you to work your whole life on it while raising your son to do the same. And it takes a whole nother life for it to be completed. Norway's sovereign wealth fund. That generation could have taken a selfish view and just taken the cash. Or politicians just gone on a vote-buying spree. But it's independently invested and managed for the benefit of future generations. William Wilberforce. https en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/William_Wilberforce. He campaigned in the British government for over *40 years to stop and prevent slavery. He was successful in abolishing the trading of slaves throughout the empire with the Slave Trade Act of 1807, and then the ownership of slaves altogether with the Slavery Abolition Act 1833. He died 3 days after hearing the Abolition Act had passed in Parliament. After a lifetime of campaigning for it, he is buried in Westminster Abbey, which is reserved for monarchs and national figures of significance. His campaign for abolition was the blueprint that other abolitionists like Lincoln soon followed up with. There are many generations living because of this man's choices. Edit. And if his good karma wasn't already high enough, he was also a founding member of the Royal Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. RSPCA. Redditors who have actually won a lifetime supply of something. What was the supply you won, and how long did it actually last? I won free full-body massages for life, which basically just translates to 2 massages a week. It was really good. I got addicted. I knew everyone who worked there, and I got to experiment with all of them to see which were the best. Ended up fluctuating between 3 different staff towards the end. They would even train new staff on me for free because I spent so much time over there. Those training massages never cost me anything either, or counted towards my 2 free massage a week limit. When the place closed down, I realized just how expensive massages were. I haven't had one in ages, and I miss it so bad. Back in 1977, when I was 13 years old, I won a contest for a lifetime supply of models from Rayvale. A semi-truck pulled up to our house in a very quiet suburban neighborhood and proceeded to unload 4 pallets of plastic models in the driveway. There were hundreds of models. Probably one of everything they offered in their catalog at the time. I kept about 2 dozen, which kept me busy for a year or so. My father helped by finding a local retail hobby store to buy the rest of them at a very favorable price so we could just get rid of them. He put the money into U.S. savings bonds for me, which I cashed out many years later to use for a down payment on my first new car. My parents won a lifetime supply of toiletries, soap, toilet tissue, and some other stuff. Once per quarter, you mail in the coupon and they send you another quarter's worth of stuff. It's all institutional grade, like what you'd expect prisoners to use. This happened in the late 90s. A local bar ran a wet t-shirt contest where the girl who won would win a lifetime of free bar drinks at the bar. They also had cash prizes for second and third place. I don't remember how much, but it was a lot at the time. The result was a packed bar. Tons of girls entered. Tons of guys spending money. My friend's girlfriend at the time, now his wife, won first place. She was stoked. He was excited. Within a couple of weeks, the building was condemned and tore down a few weeks after being that. Turns out the owners of the bar knew that the building was going to be condemned and just wanted to have one last party. I bought, not one, a lifetime membership to PureVPN. After just 5 years, they reneged on that and said, no, you only purchased 5 years. I showed them the receipt and basically got, well, we don't honor that anymore. Sorry. Thankfully I bought it through Stack Social. So when I reported that to them, they hooked me up with a different lifetime VPN provider instead. Screw paying monthly for something I barely use. Lifetime supply of M&M candies. They sent 52 bags all at once. Men of Reddit, what are some green flags on a first date? When she puts her phone away. Hell of a green flag. Edit. I saw a couple of comments come through about safety. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Do whatever you need to do to feel safe for sure. I could have been a bit clearer in the original comment and said, phone is silent and she leaves it on the table, or something like that. I wanted to get across that I'd prefer her to talk with me and not people on the phone. We accidentally showed up at the wrong restaurant. Well, I showed up at one on the north end of town. She was at the one on the south end. She ended up coming to meet me halfway, and after dinner we talked at a park at a lake until 2 in the morning, and it felt like no time had passed. She wasn't on her phone at all. I told her I don't kiss on the first date just to make sure it's not about a hookup. At the end of the night, as I was dropping her off at her car, she gave me a nervous smile and then kissed me. Then she gave me a hug and even texted me to see if I got home, as she ended up making it to her place before I got to mine. Anyway, we've been married for 8 years now. She compliments you and how you look. She showed up, listening and reciprocating questions. I don't want to talk about myself the whole time, but this isn't a job interview where I'm the employer. Ask questions about me. Haha. Also, good manners go a long way. She listens sincerely and talks sincerely. What are your first thoughts when you hear someone call themselves an alpha? Early, barely working prototype. Don't engage until they get at least to the beta testing stage. I was a bully in high school and I am still trying to make it work as an adult. Insecure. Weird way to pronounce asshole. Douchebag. Subscribe, my brothers.